Okay, I'm going to get started. All right. Just before I get started, so I got my team here with me too, a few of them. So thank you very much, gang, for helping me out here. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking your time, precious time off this afternoon to join me today. My name is Shiaoling. If I may not have met all of you, I'm actually the one who basically brought Shichida to Australia. So before I start, can I please ask for all of your help to be a bit more interactive with me and my team? You could use the chat box there to put in your comments, I don't think you can, maybe you can do emoji too. Put in your comments and questions, and let's make this as interactive as possible. That will be very encouraging for me so that I don't feel like I'm just talking to myself here. So now, firstly, an introduction. As I said, I'm the person who brought Shichida over to Australia. And this is actually our 15th year of operations, Shichida Australia. We started in 2009. So, like many of the actually Shichida licensees and many of yourselves too, our perspective in life or things that we are on the lookout for changes when we have a child. My son is actually 21 this year, and it all started with myself being a mother and looking for something for him. And that's a separate story for another day. But basically, what I've done was to kind of make, I guess, found my second career and going into the Shichida program, left my corporate job, got this going for the last 15 years, and along the way too, went and took I did my master's in education, and basically also majoring or rather studying a fair bit in terms of like gifted and talented education. So it's very exciting for me to be here sharing with you some of the things and experiences that I've had, and hopefully it is a good session and not a waste of your time today, basically. So, all right, I'm going to just switch over to the next slide. Now, this is the interactive bit, so if you can help me out here, I'd love to see in the chat box if you can share with me the age of your child, and perhaps your vision, desire, or wish for your child. So as you see from the little box here, this graphics that we kind of put together, what we have heard over the years of what parents want, what do you desire for your child? Hopefully we've got it all covered, but if not, love to hear from your chat box here. Okay. Oh, fantastic. Thank you guys for, sharing all your points here. Yep, love learning, good memory, think out of box. 11 months old, be curious, 2-year-old, 4-year-old, loving the program. Thanks, George. Daughter got so much out of it. 6 years. Nope. Michelle? I guess you can't see the slide, maybe. 14 months, Trudy. Download her as much information as you can. Learning at high speed. Knowledge is powerful. Want to give her confidence. Excellent. Yay. I think we've got the right crowd here for sure. Okay, that's great to see. Now, the next thing that I wanted to kind of go through is, I hope you guys are still seeing the slide. So basically then the question, is this you? Are you like what I was thinking once upon a time? Are you looking for something that's a well-rounded education? Are you looking to encourage and discover your child's potential? And of course, we want our child to put forth their best. We want them to be self-motivated. We want them to be excited about learning. And I think most importantly, is this bit here about finding the element in life. Sorry, I'm just going to pause there for a second. Are we seeing the slides? Oh, good. Yeah. Okay. Yes, finding the element in life and basically doing what they are good at and loving it. I think a lot of times, we may be good at what we're doing, but we don't enjoy what we're doing. So as a parent, I hope for my child that ultimately they'll be able to find that element in their life so that they're able to do what they are good at and loving it at the same time. So back to the topic, back to the, I guess, title of this program, wanting to see that first 1,000 days of your child's life, and why would it matter what you do in that first 1,000 days? So basically, as you can see here, we got a couple of picture here of your brain, a newborn, a 3-year-old, and an adult. So firstly, for a newborn, roughly the size of the brain is about 320 grams. By the time they are 3 years old, what do you think it would have increased by? Any guesses here? I just need to have a look at your chat. Yeah. Any guesses, anyone? What our 3-year-old brain might be like? Any numbers there? Are we a bit shy there? 500 grams, Helda. 450, 1 kilo. Oh, thank you, guys. Thank you for participating. I love that. 3 kilos. Fantastic. Okay, let's have a look. It's actually 1.260 grams. So, Michelle, you're pretty close to that. Trudy's pretty close to that. Now, the next question is the exciting bit. From 3 years old to adulthood, what do you think the size or the weight of the brain is going to be as an adult? Anyone? So from 1.65, 3 kilos, 1.3, 1.5, 5 kilos, 3 kilos. Okay. It is 1.45 kilos. So basically another 190 grams only. Now, it's not that after 3 years old we don't grow and we don't learn anymore. It's just that physically the brain would have pretty much grown by the time they're 3 years old. Now, from the Shichida method, Makoto Shichida often referenced this jump a little too quickly, as the law of diminishing ability, where basically he says that, from the period of 0 to 2, 0 to 3, that's actually the golden period when the brain is growing the fastest and having all those, synapses being created due to stimulation. So unlike our other parts of our body, like the physical development and the reproductive organs development that happens at a later time, as teens, in the late teens, the brain pretty much grows the fastest or near full between 0 to 3 years old. So one of the renowned author of The Happiest Toddler on the blog, there's an author who wrote this book. He's also a pediatrician. He's Dr. Harvey Karp. He basically made an analogy between early development of children and the historical evolution of our species. So some of the landmark achievements that our ancestors took forever to master years. Basically, our children can do that in 3 years. That include things like being able to walk upright, being able to use hands and fingers, being able to talk, juggling ideas, and even begin to read. So these are things that children are able to do that in the first 3 years of their lives, compared to our ancestors who would have taken a lot longer before. Now, the other reason is that our basic neural circuits are completed by age 3. So you can see over here from this picture, the S signifies the stimulation that children will get. And basically, our brain cells build neural circuits by receiving stimulation after birth. So obviously, with greater stimulation, that's when we can create a thicker neural circuit, and that the fundamental form of the neural network is basically completed by the age 3. The other thing too is quite often, of course, people may say, "Oh, nature versus nurture." I'm pretty smart, so my DNA should get passed on to my child, and by default, they should be smart too. For example, well, a study was done in 2015, and it was a study based on 14 million pairs of twins from 39 countries, and they were looking at about 17,000 traits. So nature versus nurture from that study, that came about to 49% of the traits subsequently was, I guess, influenced by nature. The genetic influence was 49%, and 51% was due to the environment thereafter. So I guess at the end of the day, then, as parents, what do we ultimately want for our kids? What kind of development do we want for our kids? So, of course, I believe some of these attributes here will be something that you'll be looking for: being confident, being curious, creative, empathetic, intelligent, motivated, resilient. And I believe I saw that in some of our chats earlier on just now. It's good to see. And if I may kind of borrow the words of Sir Ken Robinson, he is also one of the frequently quoted speaker, even on TED Talk, talking about human potentials. And that, I guess, was also where my starting point was when I became a mother, and why I was looking for something different. I think being in their element, as we said earlier on, it is a process of, I guess, achieving self-actualization. Children need to ultimately, of course, create their own life. I mean, our kids will ultimately create their own lives. So then, as parents, what was really important was that for me, I was trying what I can to kind of help children develop what's inside of them. And this is where I felt like with the Shichida program, that is exactly what our founder wanted to do, being able to bring out the best in the children. Because once you're able to develop what is inside of them, it's probably the best guarantee of being able to create a rewarding life for themselves. And education is a very essential path to self-actualization. And I guess as parents, then making good decisions for our children, with our children about education, that's going to go a long way to help them become the people they can be. So when I say education here, I'm not talking about just from an academic perspective. It's about everything relating to learning, everything that they're going to be using for life, the skills that they're going to use for life. So, how are we going to do it all? Well, one of the things, these are some of the points as far as the Shichida philosophy is concerned. And I wanted to kind of make sure that you're aware of why some of the things that we see of the Shichida kids happen as it is right now. Well, basically, as we all know, children from 0 to 3 years old, they're like sponges. They are very active on the right hemisphere of their brain. And I have mentioned earlier on why that first 1,000 days matters precisely for this reason. Quality input, especially in the 0 to 3 year old stage, that is very important. And then, of course, being able to provide the exposure and experience for the children, nurturing them during those first few years is really important. One of the other things too is paying attention to what is of interest to your child. What kind of, what kind of learning, how they learn, what kind of topics, what kind of subject, is of interest to them. And the other thing that's also quite fundamental to the Shichida philosophy is that we strongly believe that when we can engage their hearts, you'll be able to engage their minds. Now, this is not really a difficult concept to understand, because I guess, like yourselves, the subjects that you did well at school, certainly it would be something that touched your hearts, and hence it was able to engage your minds and for you to do well. And of course, as parents, your presence, your focus time, your unconditional love is a very special and important ingredient in all of this altogether. So it's not just a case of, do all this work by yourself, do all these activity by yourself, pass them the iPad, turn on the TV for the best educational program, that would suffice. But it's really your presence and the time that you set aside for them, and that unconditional love. The other bit to keep in mind is also the attention span. For as far as our program is concerned and our philosophy, we basically make the assumption that a child's attention span is roughly their age plus a minute. So you do need to keep in mind that you don't kind of keep them at an activity for too long, or making them kind of like write the alphabets a gazillion times over the however number of minutes. Now, you may be asking, for those of us who are existing parent here, if that's your attention span, why is your class 50 minutes even for the 6 months old? Well, that is also why the other question that you often may say is, gosh, everything is so fast in the class. Are they even listening to it? So we actually built the attention span into the program, so that the minute if they start to drift off, that's when the activity change over and we redraw the attention span back again. That is also why one of the things that parents often observe about Shichida kids, or rather, even their friends outside, their other instructors of other programs, their music teacher often say that Shichida kids have got really they have got really good attention span. So it is not a age factor, it is by training, and what they do every week builds that up. So the other thing too, then of course, is understanding that children are a lot more capable than we think. So again, back to the point, what is there to learn at 6 months? Well, a lot of it is focusing on the input at that stage. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. The other thing to keep in mind is, of course, making sure that we understand that we need to consolidate their skills first before leveling up. So don't get too excited when your kids can kind of like do a 6-piece puzzle and a 10-piece puzzle, and then you go like, all right, let's do a 50-piece puzzle. You want them to build their confidence gradually. That is also why the classes, the way it is run, the way the activities are designed, is to ensure that there's that consolidation of their skills, and hence building that confidence, so that then as they go through the program each week, each term, even as it gets harder, the kids are not too frazzled by it. So that's that bit there. And of course, focusing on the positive things that the children can do. So basically, Chichida, the one of the things that we're about is basically this whole stimulation of the whole brain, and taking advantage of the early years to optimize that I guess that potential in the children by giving them the age appropriate stimulation. Now, from the 0 to 3 year old period, children tend to be very active on the right hemisphere. of the brain. So again, this is not you're saying your left brain or right brain or things like that. It is a whole brain stimulation. And there are definitely some specialization in each hemisphere, but of course the brain is a lot more complex than we think than just two halves of it. Now, one of the things too, from a right hemisphere perspective, that also explains why they learn like sponge, is because the kids are very the right hemisphere is very image based. The learning is very subconscious. So the processing of the information, it's concurrent processing. A lot of information can be taken in at very high speed. And of course, that's also the intuitive aspect of our person, of our being. And of course, on the left hemisphere, that's tend to be the language bit, the conscious learning bit, the learning gradually by understanding your logical and analytical mind. So if you think about it in IT terms, the right hemisphere is almost like this parallel processing, but the left hemisphere, the way it picks up and learns information is more sequential. So for those of you who are existing parents, of course, you can see that some of these activities, the areas of activities that we cover basically covers the whole brain stimulation altogether. So what I'm going to go through next is actually some of the tips and suggestions of our unique approach basically. So Chichida basically really focus on that 1,000 days, that first 1,000 days, the golden period, where 0 to 3 years old is pretty much our input phase. Our 4 to 6 year old curriculum is focused on output, and our 7 to 9 year old program focuses on application, everything that they have learned in their early years. So the foundation of our method is, of course, inputting knowledge in the early years. And we strongly believe that with quality input in, you will get quality output out. And 4 to 6 years old, that is also when we connect and encourage the kids to express themselves, so that then later on their outstanding abilities and their independence will emerge from there. So the next couple of slides are some of the suggestions that I put together to give parents some ideas. And of course, it will be age specific too, that we can get into more details. And for prospective parents who are here, who have not attended classes yet, these are certainly some takeaways that you can have to work on with your child at home. Now, one of the first things that we do in class is actually this bit on in image play. So your pretend play, your imagination of a scene, and for the older kids, a virtual rehearsal. Maybe I'll just also share very quickly one of the things that I've actually said. Or actually knew of it a few years ago when one of the parents asked me. So I think a lot of parents love this idea of, oh, you do memory training and my kids' memory is so good. They really have photographic memory and all that. But I remember a parent was really after that, attribute for their child. I remember her saying to me, oh, Shiaoling, it's great. And that's the bit that I want. Can you cut the actually she said cut the fluff in the beginning, so that then we can go straight into memory training, and I had to explain to her that the fluff was to help with the memory training later. So for those of you who are in the program, you will remember that for photographic memory, quite often the kids get to say like, oh, all right, take out your magic camera, we're going to do the ka-ching ka-ching. So again, using the analogy of a camera, this portion here, the image play, is kind of like you're loading the film into the camera. Because if you can't close your eyes and visualize an image, you're not going to be able to kind of work on photographic memory later on. So it's actually a warm up exercise or activity, preparing your child to do the photographic memory activity better. So some of the things that you can do at home, this whole thing about pretend play, then pretending to cook, pretending to eat, pretending to feed a baby, pretending to walk a dog, etc. That's really good. And kids do naturally be able to do that, and you want to kind of encourage that. The other thing for the older kids, especially when they start, they're able to talk, they start talking, you might want to kind of image a scene with them. It could be a storybook that you're reading, and after you finish, you kind of go like, oh, let's pretend that you're going to be in the story. What are you going to do at this point? Where are you going to be sitting? What are you going to do with that animal or something, or it could be an activity that you would have done before with your child, like, oh, let's imagine that we're going to the zoo now. Remember, we've been to the zoo before. Where are we going to go first, and what do you see, etc. And ultimately for the older kids, this actually becomes a virtual rehearsal for something that they may be challenged to do, perhaps giving a speech during assembly, maybe even doing a speech to run for the school captain role, or a swimming competition, or a recital that they need to perform, for example. So these are some of the things that we can work on every day in your interaction with your children. Now, the other bit is the memory game. So this was the Kaching one. These some of the pictures that I've taken from our classes. So this is your eidetic image play. Now, one of the things that we often hear of parents, and in fact, I just spoke with a parent last week where they were going, oh, how do I practice this? How do I make this do well, go well? Now, one of the things that I want to kind of highlight is that when we do this activity, we're actually wanting the kids to see the whole thing as a whole picture. So like this grid here of 6, it is not 6 objects. It is actually one picture made up of the 6 objects. So the whole idea is for them to look at it as one picture. It's just like how you read a person's face. You don't break it down into the eyes and nose and mouth. You see the whole face as a picture. So that's what we want to do. If you find that your child is struggling a little bit with doing 6, and what you can do at home is that you could cut it down to 4, use 4. And all you need to do is really just to draw a grid of 4 squares. And you don't need to use these cards. It could be toys, it could be fruits, it could be get 2 grapes, get 2 raspberry, get 2 biscuit, or something to place it on this grid, and then giving them another set to make it the same. So this is one of the activities that you can work on to practice with your kids at home. And if you are doing 6 in class, but the child's kind of like not getting it, you might want to kind of scale it down to 4, maybe 2 even, just to get their confidence up. And have a bit of fun in there, and it could be a competition between your child and yourself or dad to kind of work on this. And of course, the other thing that could be similar to, with cards, memory cards that's available in the shops, that you do your matching pairs thing. Quite often it's you kind of lay it all out and you just start finding the pairs, yeah? But what you can do with those cards, again, limiting the number, you could be showing all the cards to your child at one go first, and then closing it so that then they could use that photographic, or train that photographic memory capability to look at the whole thing as a picture. Now, the other thing too is that should you decide to do this at home, please do not think that the longer that you show it, the better it's going to be. Because the longer that you show it, you're basically, I guess, encouraging them to use their logical brain to recall this information. And that's why, too, with parents, when you're working at this in class with your kids, you don't want to kind of ask them what was on the top left, what was on the bottom. You want to just leave it to the kids and encourage them to see that as a whole. We haven't had a parent who had done this task better than any of the kids actually. So leave it to the children and encourage them to see that as a whole picture. The other thing is, of course, the mnemonic techniques that we do in class. There's linking memory, that's your silly story. Likewise, too, you don't have to just rely on cards. Like in class, you could be using real objects or pictures that you may cut out from magazines or things like that. And you could be lining them up to tell the story, and then maybe using a cloth to cover over and slowly revealing what one item is after another. Now, the other bit for the older kids too, we do the peg memory. So there's the number pack, body pack, pack words too. And that is something really cool to do for perhaps your shopping list even. Just in the interest of time, I won't be able to give an example to you, but we definitely can have the instructors kind of like showing you how you can do that as a shopping list. It's pretty fun, and you'll be surprised what you can remember when you use the pack words. Okay, the next thing, critical thinking. So for the little kids, especially the babies and the toddlers, fingertip training is really important. Because with fingertip training, you're basically also stimulating that part of the brain to because of the connection of obviously your sensory over to your brain. And with the slightly older kids, they start getting introduced to mazes, puzzles, tangrams, basically in the critical thinking space too. With our program, we basically focus on all these 10 basic concepts. So even though I'm talking about it with what we are doing in class, but like I said, for someone who may not have been in the program yet, these are some of the things that you can take away to kind of go, oh, some of the things that I can work on with my child: numbers, sizes, money, time, sequence, quantity, color, shapes, spatial recognition, and comparison. So this is from a critical thinking side of things. Now, literacy, I think I said that in the beginning too. Make sure that no matter what we do with our kids, remember that you need to engage their heart in order to engage their mind. So choose something that's of interest to your child. Or, well, old school way of learning, probably alphabets. You write A to Z like a gazillion time. You learn your alphabet starting from A. You start your recognition from A, etc. But if your child loves Thomas the Tank Engine, I'm not sure if he's still popular these days, assuming he is, why not T? T means more to him than A, because T stands for Thomas. So you want to kind of make sure that you appeal to something that's of interest to them. And of course, there's your phonics that you can introduce to them. Phonics is actually a very important tool and which we use to that facilitates in helping them learn how to read faster. Letter recognition, writing, letter search, and of course, reading with your child. Now, even though your baby may be 1 month old, 2 months old, you can read to your child and you can read anything to your child. So if you like to read the financial review, go ahead. Really that stimulation, that sound, and all that is input. The other bit is where I say use technology to your advantage. Often we may hear of parents saying, oh, they don't really like writing, they don't like to use the pencil and things like that. One of the things that I often suggest is with the iPhone, and I'm sure with the Androids too, there will be this feature called the voice memo. So quite often what you can do is even in your image play, earlier activity, imagining a story, for example, use your phone to record their voice telling the story. So anytime anything to do with the phone, I'm sure the kids will be interested. And subsequently, what you can do is when you play back, of course, they'll be excited to hear their own voice and all that. And that's when you can slowly kind of say, oh, maybe why don't we try and turn your story that you have recorded into a book. So then slowly from there, you can kind of encourage them to write. You can encourage them to draw, even to create that book, for example. Now, the other thing will be, of course, numeracy. Uh, Now, numeracy, some some people see it just as a subject, just as a subject to score, for example. But mathematics is actually a very good, I guess, discipline and subject to help train problem solving skills. And it doesn't mean that when you do your worksheets a million times, you're going to be able to develop that problem solving skill. It is something that is quite intentional, and something that we got to make an effort to do that. I'll pause that for that moment, but let me talk about this bit here first. Now, numbers is actually a very hard concept for children, because they need to realize that your number one, your number two, all that is actually being associated to a quantity. Because a lot of times kids can count 1 to 10, 1 to 20, but when you ask them how many people are there in the room, or how many people do we have in the family, they could be saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 because of a song, because of a rhyme. So it is therefore very important for them to realize that number two actually equates to a specific quantity of 1 and 2. And that's what you will see in class, of us constantly having that sort of activity for children to realize that, oh, okay, three is actually three items, 1, 2, and 3. And one of the things that you can do to reiterate that concept is, of course, my favorite is always saying to parents, go shopping with your kids. And when you do, for example, you need to pick 5 oranges. And of course, if you were to do it by yourself, you could do that in 2 seconds. But that is an excellent time to basically say, all right, little Tommy, let's put 5 oranges into this bag. And having them to put 5 oranges into the bag, and you count as you go. So even though that's going to take you 20 minutes to get 5 oranges, but that 20 minutes is going to be really well spent with your child. So that's one of the things about quantity. Now, one of the other bits about at Shichida that we do is you need to be able to discern. So you need to know what is that quantity first. And then being able to correspond. So the number 2 is equal to 2 apples. It also can be 2 oranges, etc. So again, remember what I said earlier on about input and waiting for output. It's very important for us to kind of concentrate on, making sure they know what is it first. They know how they can correspond first, and then later on with the addition and all that can come along. So don't get too excited when the kids can go counting 1 to 10 and then you go, all right, let's do addition now, because you really do need to solidify that basic, for them to understand what their quantity is first before you can work on addition. So this is something, like I said, the way the curriculum is designed in Shichida is exactly that. While that gradually, like a layering approach, certain things are being introduced. Now, appreciating maths as a discipline. So basically, mathematics tasks can actually be defined as an exercise or a problem. So an exercise is basically, the procedure for solving it. It's already known, and then it's a direct application for, with one or more of the computational procedures. However, a problem solving point is actually more complex, because the solution might not be as immediate. It does require some degree of creativity and memory too in order to do problem solving. And for those of you with older kids, and you're used to your ICAS and your Maths Olympiad type of question, especially Maths Olympiad, you will see that those questions there are not straightforward. And it is there to encourage the problem solving capability in the children. Okay, so that is something to kind of keep in mind too. So I've got a tip here that basically say little Tommy loves vehicles. So, what are some of the things that we can do with little Tommy then? Considering all those other things that I've said earlier on about image play, about memory, about numeracy, literacy, critical thinking, etc. So, of course, any books relating to vehicle, that's going to be of interest to little Tommy. So you can kind of like, read your books relating to the vehicle bit. Now, again, in the first few years, don't be overly anxious to kind of go like, what's this word? What's that word? So don't need to test your kid. Just keep reading to them. And even if it means you got to read it like 10 times a night, it's going to be worth it, because at that point, for you to be able to ask to be, reading it 10 times, that's certainly your child showing that love of learning there. Of course, songs relating to vehicles, drawing vehicles, which then you can use colors and throw in numbers in there too. Making I guess vehicles out of Play-Doh, Lego, again, the playing of colors there. Flash picture cards of vehicles, the different type of vehicles. Maybe using cards and pictures of vehicles to play memory games. And a good one is actually a memory recall of vehicle logo. We've got this boy who's actually finished the program now. His thing was actually airplanes, so he can remember all the airlines. He can it even went down to like the models of the plane. Yeah, so the names of the vehicle, what kind of models there are, spot alphabets in vehicle name and type. For example, your facts and statistics of vehicle, like your petrol consumption, your, I don't know, your 0 to 100 kilometer what do you call those? I mean, the rate it speeds up in how many seconds. So things like that, that will be of interest to your child. Again, back to the point, when you can engage their heart, you can engage their minds. So basically, what this program is, like I said, takes advantage of that 1,000 years, 1,000 days, to optimize what the brain is capable of doing. And ultimately, our founder, Makoto Shichida, actually, the purpose of him coming up with this program, his hope and dream was that we are going to be raising children with kind hearts, big dreams, and full of talents. So the program is for 0 to 9 years old. We do have a last entry point of 4.5 years old here, in case there are prospective parents here who are not in the program yet. Repetition is necessary. While it may look repetitive to you as an adult, it is absolutely necessary for children at that age, because the stimulation and the repeated stimulation there will make sure that the synapses is connected, that the brain circuit is connected with that information and with that stimulation. And parents being in class, well, honestly, that is your only opportunity, best time to kind of see what excites your kid, how do they learn, and your presence as their partner in the class, as a team, then you will make that learning a lot more enjoyable because of your presence. There will come the day where they will go to school and they go to kindergarten. And for those of us with older kids, you will know that the teacher will not even allow you to peep through the window to see how your child is going. So take advantage of these opportunities, and make sure you kind of be present with your child in class. So Shichida is actually really a brain stimulation program, and we use our brain for everything. So it's not just a numeracy or literacy activity. And as I said here, because of everything else that I've said earlier on, really it is an investment in our children and in their education. It is not just an activity. One of the things, having it, fun. Literally, to this morning, a parent just told me that the child looks forward to the class every week. When you can engage the heart, you engage the mind. So when it's fun, they enjoy it. They will learn, and they will be given tools as we always say over at Shichida, it's not just about the knowledge, but it's also giving children the tools to learn, the tools to process information. And it makes it so much easier for them, the way that they learn, and for them to ultimately do well. Okay, now the next bit that I have here, I thought I want to kind of just quickly share with you some of the, I guess, outcome that we have seen over the years. So last year in 2023, that was our eighth batch of primary school program children that have graduated. Those of you who may be following us on Instagram, you probably may have seen a couple of videos of the kids in their graduation gowns and some of the performances that they may have made. So our first batch of kids, our oldest alumni, is Jacqueline. She's actually doing year 12 this year. And you see basically some of the updates that we have gotten from the families. So obviously winning awards in writing competition, public speaking, debating. We have Olympiad winners for mathematics, geography, robotics too. And Luke here, he's actually a young ambassador of Zeus Victoria, and him, basically pursuing the palm oil labeling to kind of help protect his favorite animal, the orangutan. And actually, his idea came about when he was actually in class here talking about a superpower. We even have a child who actually won the Mario Kart championship. I think it's called e games or esports right now at a primary school level in Victoria. We have also seen a couple of school captains and prefects, student leaders, musical performance. That's little William there in the Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dream Code. And of course, scholarship awards to schools, and of course, memory champions. So it's really exciting to kind of see the kids, how they have grown over the years. And we certainly look forward to seeing more outcome and results from the children. I just want to kind of also share this review that we have received from a parent, and specifically him because his child actually was one of the graduates, and we just had the graduation event a few weeks ago. So some of the things that you see here where, the memorizing instruments surpassing their peers, problem-solving abilities, giving that solid foundation. And I was really happy to kind of see where he actually indicated that memory and creativity are the dual engines that power our experiences and problem-solving abilities. This is spot on, and being able to kind of see how the program has kind of helped enhance this part for his child, and basically, of course, giving wings to the children's imagination, and it is that specific window of opportunity. The other thing too is that then, of course, seeing and recognizing it as a investment beyond measures. The other thing is ultimately, being able to see that growth. And I guess his point, I think his last statement was meant for parents, where he wanted to encourage our parents to say, embracing it and embark on this journey of boundless possibilities for your little ones, which that is, certainly what we have seen over the years. And actually, this parent actually came to me after that and said, please pass on to the Shichida family for something like this. He said he wished he had this when he was young. It would have made his life so much easier. And it was really nice to kind of see that. And he was, of course, very glad that he could do this for his children. So I've come to the end of my presentation. We will have a couple of minutes to go through some of the comments and questions. But before I look into that, I just wanted to leave you some points again. So basically, love for you guys, for existing parents, please do take your cue from your weekly class. Just like a personal trainer, you look at what activity, what concept was being introduced, and use that opportunity, use that as a guide to go home for the week to reiterate some of these concepts here based on the suggestions that I've kind of made earlier on. And of course, speak with your instructors to go like, oh, what else can I do? Speak to your center managers to make the most out of that 50 minutes in class. It you'll be glad you did that, because like I said, they grow up really fast, and before you know it, you're not going to have that opportunity to be able to see how your child learns and how your child get excited. The other thing that's also important is, please also make sure that we encourage and praise the children for their effort too. They do kind of they will want to hear that. They want to kind of see that willingness to make an attempt is even praiseworthy. And it's not just when you get the answer perfect, or when your handwriting is perfect, or when the puzzle is perfect, etc. So make sure that we praise them for their effort too. The other thing, always keep in mind, like I said earlier on, again and again, engage the heart, you can engage their mind. So while you're thinking of what to do at home, just keep this at the back of your mind, and you should be able to come up with really good ideas that you can work on with your children. And again, feel free to check with any of us or ask any of us for input. And the other thing too is, of course, be patient, value that input, and wait for the output. I always say kids are like that empty glass. As we pour in the water, in terms of information, in terms of knowledge, in terms of tools, in terms of experience, ultimately, when it overflows, you will see that output. My team and myself, we're here to support you guys always. I think parenting is the cornerstone, education is the bridge. I think together we definitely can pave, the journey for your child towards knowledge and character. That ultimately, of course, we love to see that endless possibility that can come from the children. So thank you for your patience for listening through me. Please do stay with me a little bit with questions. I'm just gonna unshare this so that I can see the questions. Oh gosh, okay, a lot of points here. Where do I start? Okay, Michelle, the question was the definition of the 1,000 days. Well, it's basically the first 3 years. Yes, it does start from birth. And actually, it's interesting you mentioned about conception, because one of the things that we are looking at starting pretty soon is actually prenatal classes. We've had a couple of staff who went through it already with me. So I'm actually looking forward to kind of bring that across to our families, and obviously with our existing families too. So that will be exciting to see. So yes, it is ultimately from conception. It's 0 to 3, basically. 100%. I've seen improvement. Thank you, George, for that. Yes, thanks, Marcel, for reiterating that. Florence, is there a way we can open up extra classes on weekend? I know that's constantly something that parents ask us of. What I strongly suggest, really, for weekend classes, the wait could be at least a year, if not longer, because we only have that limited number of classrooms. And usually when the class is created, parents tend to just stick through till they finished up with the program on a weekend. So quite often we will say, please try and see if you can find your second best time slot on a weekday, while then having yourself on the wait list for the weekend, because just keeping in mind that your child is growing up while you're waiting for sports too, and we definitely wouldn't want to kind of like, miss that window of opportunity. Thanks, George. Glad to hear that your daughter is loving it. How often should you be practicing? Well, basically, it's don't I mean, even our own staff, they're not going to be able to go home and repeat that 50 minutes. Think of it this way, where your personal trainer went through that 50 minutes, all the concepts that was being introduced, and then for yourself in your daily life, built in bits and pieces here and there. So it could be, during dinner time, you could be counting something, number of dessert, grapes, fruits, kind of thing, or while you are out and about driving, spotting for alphabets and things like that. So try and build it into your daily life. That's the thing. And of course, for the older kids where they may go home with a homework, a worksheet, that will be also good to kind of start preparing them to set aside a time to sit still to finish up a worksheet. But like I said, build again their age and attention span in there. So don't ask a 4-year-old kid to sit there for 1 hour to do something. If they sit still for 5 minutes, that's great. You can do another 5 minutes later on again, but don't stretch it all out to like an hour on writing, because that's not going to be very enjoyable, as some of us may have known in our growing years. Jason, thank you. Great to hear that they love the silly story. Oh, thanks, Marcel, for answering that. Yes, Tim, it's going to be recorded. Michelle, great. Thank you. Starting at €1, the last year for your L. Yes, I know. I've had quite a number of kids and parents, actually kids coming to me to go, why do you stop at 9 years old? What am I supposed to do on Thursday afternoon now? So yes, unfortunately, curriculum wise, this is as far as it goes. Yeah, this will be, yes, thank you, Joey. Thank you, Marcel, for helping to answer. Oh, okay, you test myself on it every day, every week too, Jason. So how did you go? Did you do better than your daughter? I bet she did better than you. Sorry. I remember we had a dad who basically said, I do that every week. I'm an engineer. I should know. Of course. Yes. And the daddy said that, he never could get past 3 cuts. So, okay, I tried, Natasha, I tried a class too long for my 2-year-old, not very good at concentrating. Oh, okay. So, Natasha, this is what I said earlier on. Concentration is a training thing. So, there are different, I guess, strategies and techniques that we can work on with you. Certainly would encourage you to give it a go again. And sometimes, too, it's not just one class that they will learn. So, even for those of you who may be considering a trial class, coming in once and having your child not settle in is not an indication that they cannot settle in, because you got to keep in mind too, the rest of the class could have been here since 6 months. So naturally, their concentration span is going to be better than someone coming in a 2-year-old, 3-year-old. Yeah. Thanks, Marcel. Okay, Michelle's. If we put through too much into all things. Oh yeah, of course, of course. So that's also this is A commenting that if we focus, well, I'm not saying that it's just all the interest. We certainly want to introduce them to different things too, and that's also where our flashcards often kind of create that interest in the children. I'll give an example. So with the flashcards, some parents may think like, oh, they got to memorize everything. It's key that you kind of let your child just relax and watch it like a video or a movie, because it is working on the subconscious way of taking in that information. So what happens is that then, for example, we do a lot of flag cards, and actually a lot of our kids are very excited when it comes to flags. And that's when it comes to Commonwealth game, Olympic games, Australian Open, on the TV, when the flag starts flashing out, the kids get excited. So it's also an introduction to them at that point, like, oh, okay, there's this thing and what it represents. I remember there was a parent who told me that they were watching, I think it was the Commonwealth game, and one of the flags came out that's pretty rare. And the little boy just when it is whatever that country might be. There were about 6, 7 parents in the room, and all of them were like, really? All of them started Googling And of course, that child was right. So the thing with a flashcard is that whenever you recognize something familiar, you get excited, don't you? So in that moment, the child recognizing the flag, that is also a parent's window of opportunity to go, yes, that's right. It is this country. Oh, guess what language they speak? Guess what landmarks there are? Guess what kind of food they have? So then that moment, because he's excited, because he recognized it, that is also your window of opportunity to be able to give him more input relevant to that moment. So I'm not saying that just focus on those that there's interest. From flashcards and all, there will be a lot of other things that you can connect it to. Okay. Joe Mean, Han, thanks. Thank you, all my dear managers, for helping me answer the questions. Trudy, is it beneficial to do the online training as well as in class lessons? Did you mean Shichida at home? Because other than for during the COVID period, we kind of, I think rarely now there might be some customers still on the webinar because they are interstate. But certainly, being in class in person because of also with the classmates too, and especially with the primary school program, I think because they touch on things like debating, etc., brainstorming together. So definitely being in class is great. But if you're talking about Shichida at home, and in case parents are not aware of that, that is not a online equivalent of our class. That's actually a separate offering altogether. Of course, it's based off the Shichida method. It's more of something to be used as an add-on, even if you're an existing parent, to kind of use, I guess, technology to your advantage as a tool so that you can you don't have to prepare all those things yourself. You don't have to think about what to create. You basically use the offerings, which includes videos and an electronic workbook in there to work with your child together. And of course, for some of the parents who may be far away from our centers, that is certainly also an option. Yeah. So if we were to do the home version, as I'm unable, for his fifth birthday. Oh, okay. So Wendy, okay, I definitely with it like I said earlier on, it doesn't equate to what we do in class. He's already past his fourth birthday. Um, yeah, that might get a bit tricky. Now, one of the reason, so certainly the home version can help. One of the reason why there is the cutoff age at 4.5 too is because a lot of like I said, the 4 to 6 years old is focusing on a lot on output. So it's actually based off everything that we would have done in the early years. So it does become a little bit challenging for the children, and we don't want them to come in to go, oh, how come they know how to do it but we don't, etc. But certainly here, with Shichida at home, I mean, for parents who are in other states than New South Wales and Victoria, that often is the next best option. Okay. Is there a home version to? Yep, I guess we replied that as far as Shichida at home is concerned. Thank you for the information. How many minutes per day? A kindergarten child. Actually, when they start school, typically they may say homework should be their year level times 10 for 10 minutes. So a kindergarten, year one is 10 minutes. So prep should be less, can't quite be 0 times 10. Really just based off their age plus 1 minute. I think that will probably be the best guide. And the other thing you can do is, if the child is asking for more, it's not a bad idea to say, actually, let's do that later. Break it up because you want to keep them at that point where they still want it versus, oh, enough, I don't want to do that anymore. For example, yeah, making it fun. Yes. Okay. we don't do any screen time. Do you think it's beneficial to watch? I think depending on how old your child is, Trudy, the point is that what's important is that I think watching with them, not leaving them to watch by themselves. Because one of the things with TV is that it is very one way only, and because it being TV, the screen refreshes really quickly. It can affect the concentration span of your child. So that's why, for example, with Shichida at home, it's built that way whereby you will do it together with your child. You can pause, the video, you can kind of like point on the TV or on the screen what it is. So that's interactive in that sense. So I would say, yes, if you watch it together with your child, talk about it, and things like that, that will be useful versus just plugging them in front of the TV, for example. Okay. Wendy. Oh, okay. Yes. Well, the training, unfortunately, for the Shichida method is only for Shichida staff. So that is something from our head office that's determined. Oh, Judy too. Fantastic, guys. We are hiring. You're most welcome to send your resume through. On our website, there is information on how you can do that. Uh, Okay. Oh, thanks, Han. Yep, she's basically put up the link on applying. So yes, I think I got through all the questions. Anything else, anyone? Thank you so much for your patience. I love to hear from you guys if that was useful so that we know what to do more of or less of next time. Again, please use the chat. Let me know your thoughts. Share with me what you think, what was useful for you. And oh, you're welcome, Michelle. You're welcome, A. And Sammy, we'll get Hanako to send you the link. Jason, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm glad to see that it was useful. Thank you, Helda. Thank you, Sammy. Thank you, Sathana. Thank you, SJ. Great. Please try. Yeah, if I had more time, there'll be more that I could share too. Thank you all so much for joining us today. And thank you to my whole team who are here supporting me with answering the questions and all. Please do not hesitate to just grab hold of your instructor, grab hold of your center manager. We are here with you on this journey. Thank you, Amy. I'm glad to hear that it is very helpful. Thank you all. Thank you. Bye.